we're all aware of just how distasteful the media coverage of the death of Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput got last year. As you might recall, there were months and months of fevered speculation and all sorts of conspiracy theories about why and how he died, what had led him to take his own life. There was a vilification of his ex-girlfriend, RHEA Chakraborty, who was being blamed by his family and by others. You had multiple investigating agencies all coming in. The Mumbai police were being criticized for failing to make more arrests and for not treating this as a murder case. All of this got quite crazily out of hand, as we might recall. Not just obviously on social media, where things continue to remain quite intense in that world, but which were fueled and kind of encouraged by debates and supposed investigative journalism on a number of TV channels, including Republican Times. Now, this is no longer just a judgment made on an aesthetic level by us, but also has been stated in a very, very important judgment by the Bombay High Court on 18th January, where they've criticized the way in which the media conduct these sort of parallel investigations and these media trials, and how that affects the administration of criminal justice. So I'm going to read out a few lines from what the judges said. And they've said that we have no hesitation to record that this sort of reporting by the media is immensely prejudicial to the interests of the accused and could dent the process of a fair future trial and derail due administration of criminal justice. Now, what exactly is the court saying here? They are basically pointing out that when you have the kind of over-the-top sensationalist media coverage which takes place in many high-profile criminal matters, it has a direct effect and an impact on the ability to actually ensure justice in these cases. It has an impact on being able to ensure a right to a fair trial for people who are going to be accused. It has a detrimental impact on the police being able to actually conduct a proper investigation. And also, there is so much distasteful coverage which deals with the victim themselves and other people in there, and the deceased and other people involved in all of these kind of cases, which is extremely problematic. Now, what the court has done is they have said that because there is the fact that this kind of coverage can affect the administration of justice, when channels do this kind of thing, it amounts to criminal contempt of court, because the Contempt of Courts Act has a concept of criminal contempt which includes interference with the administration of justice. And they've held that because of these various reasons, this kind of media coverage does interfere with the administration of justice. And so when channels do this, they can now actually be held liable for criminal contempt of court. And this isn't just at the stage when a trial actually begins. Even during the investigation stage, this is something which they have to watch out for. Otherwise, they could be hauled up in court. Now, why does the court exactly say that there's an effect on the administration of justice? Well, think about it. When you have this kind of coverage, it can lead to a guilty person getting a tip-off, innocent people being hounded and their reputations destroyed, which is irreparable, even if they eventually turn out to be innocent. You have the police not being allowed to do their jobs, being hounded at their work, being sent off in all sorts of wrong directions, and which impacts their ability to do their job. You even have witnesses getting exposed because people are running after trying to get interviews with, this person's a key witness, and then those people get threatened and harassed and end up turning hostile or just not turning up in court. Now, all of these things affect the ability to have a fair trial. And in particular, obviously, you've got the fact that, accused people are portrayed in character assassin and just portrayed as being guilty at the start. Now, what the court, if you remember, obviously, when it came to the way Republican Times now did this, they were the leaders in this kind of process, and the court has expressly acknowledged it. They've said that their coverage prima facie amounted to contempt. They've not taken action against them right now, but they've clearly laid this out. I'm going to read out again some lines of what they said there. And they said, in the process, in an attempt to outsmart each other, these two TV channels started a vicious campaign of masquerading as crusaders of truth and justice and the saviors of the situation, thereby exposing what in their perception Mumbai police had suppressed, caring less for the rights of other stakeholders and throwing the commands of the CRPC and all sense of propriety to the winds. So what you see here is a very, very strong condemnation of the kind of coverage which took place last year in this case. But this is a judgment which is going to go far beyond. There are a clear set of guidelines which the court has said that when you've got these criminal cases, your reporting has to be objective, unbiased, and cannot afford to run into these kind of crazy debates and speculative things. You have to focus only on the facts and things which are actually in the public interest. If it's not, and you run riot with your coverage, you will be held liable for criminal contempt in the courts. Now, some of the key guidelines which have been laid down are that, especially when it comes to death by suicide, stop the crazy speculation. Don't suggest, why the person did it. Oh, they were a weak character. Oh, someone influenced them. Oh, this. All of that has to be avoided. You're supposed to just stick to basic reporting of the facts. When it comes to other kind of sort of criminal cases, don't prejudge the case. Don't say, oh, for sure this person is guilty, or oh, this person must be arrested. So don't insist that, oh, this is what has to be done for the case, for justice to be done. That's not your job. You need to just put out any investigative facts which you find and also hand those over to the investigation where possible. Don't go around chasing after witnesses. Don't go trying to character assassinate the accused. Do not go around trying to reconstruct crime scenes. We saw this, by the way, if you remember, it happened with a lot of the media coverage. And one other very, very key point is that don't talk about confessions made by an accused to the police. This happens all the time. We've seen this even with Umar Khalid and Tahir Hussain when it comes to the Delhi riots cases, where don't just say, oh, this person has made a confession to the police, because unless the confession is made to a magistrate, it is inadmissible as evidence. So if you just talk about that, because the police love to leak this, that they got this kind of information, or they've confirmed that the person's guilty, but that is absolutely inadmissible evidence. And it's because at the end of the day, it's a custodial confession. It's not reliable. That's why you need to be able to inform your readers that that's the case. Now, what this all ties into is the fact that the courts are saying that this kind of reportage so far, which we see, is very, very irresponsible, and these guidelines are meant to be in place to stop that from happening. What's important to note is that, as you might be aware, there's a sort of self-regulation mechanism with the News Broadcasters Association and others, which normally is supposed to deal with this, but they never really do anything. What the court has found is that not only do they not do very much, but actually that self-regulatory framework is does not exclude the statutory powers which the central government has under the Cable TV Network rules and the Cable TV Network Act, which actually allow them to enforce a program code which would stop all of this. And so what we're going to see now is courts actively stepping in, holding people criminally liable. We're going to see the courts also insisting that the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting stop this kind of media trial. So a very, very important judgment going forward for how we're going to see the media deal with high-profile cases and hopefully stop the sensationalism.